Hey there, welcome to the Jeff and Heidi Show, where you're going to have the opportunity to listen to and learn from everyday entrepreneurs.
Okay, hi, this is Heidi Anderson from ECI Business Financial Strategies and my co-host Jeff Peggy of Jeff Peggy Coaching. And we are really excited today to introduce our guest, Bud Levey. He is my longtime neighbor. We've actually been neighbors for like 13 years, I think, at least. And it wasn't until like recently that I really got to know him as a talented business strategist. So without further ado, here's Bud. He can tell you more about what he does.
Hi, how you doing? Well, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate this and looking forward to getting to know you guys better also. So yeah, I'm a business strategist, or a lot of people just like to hear me as a coach. Sometimes people hear the word strategist or whatever, so it's more of a growth coach. I help people grow their business. I've got many years of business experience at various different levels, and I don't have the MBA. I don't have the certifications and things like that, but it's all by the rule of hard knocks. And grew up in an entrepreneurial type family, went to college, but kind of always realized that if you're going to get ahead in a company, you're going to be managing people sooner or later. You don't get ahead of people by not dealing with them one way or another. So management is really important. And even though my background in education was engineering, it got me up because I understood how to deal with people and knew a little more about business. So I've got business experience with some very, very large companies, but it was always in more the operational end of it. It wasn't someone that was doing some analysis back in the corner and didn't deal with people. So it was always an operational type thing. And it's interesting, if you think about it while you're moving along, of how did that work and why did it work or why didn't it work? And that's kind of my being, is evaluating things, sometimes too much. but the thing is, that I look at a situation and try to figure it out, and I guess I've gotten quite good at it. So I kind of have the ability to come into a business and very rapidly determine what the biggest issues are. When I sit down and talk with somebody, it's I always ask them what they think the business issue is, and what they think it is does not necessarily mean that's what it really is. So it's getting to that very quickly and being able to throw out some ideas and get them to understand. And I realize what they're talking about, and I think I can help them moving forward. And the great majority of the time, I can.
So I've seen your background. You've got extensive background, and you're just talking about some of the big companies you work with. What were the steps you took? Did you go from one of these big companies to starting your own business, or did you go from these bigger companies to get right into the coaching and consulting, or what was the process you took on the entrepreneurial journey?
So I was working for the big companies and working my way up in them, and then various things happen where it's like, okay, we're going to sell this division, which is what happened to me with one company, and that kind of motivated me really to go into my own business, and started my own business from scratch, and just developed this business, and ended up being in it for 18 years. The coaching end of it came at a certain point in my life where it was kind of a semi-retirement situation. We sold the business. I had a business partner. We sold it, and it's like, oh, now what do I want to do? I got to the point I felt I could do anything I wanted to do, and I already had started the mastermind group. So there was a period of time that I actually went and was a loan officer. Just, okay, let's change and do something else. It's also my belief I can learn anything. And so I was successful at that. And while I was doing that, I saw the benefit of network meetings and started one and turned it into a mastermind group. So that mastermind group actually is still in existence and has been going on for about 15, 16 years. We do that mastermind group every week. So if you figure 15, 16 years, 50 times a year, we've done a lot of different topics and a lot of different things. So, and it's a blast. So when I was looking at going into my semi-retirement and my own business, it took a little while to figure out what I was going to do, but I kept coming back to this mastermind group. It's like, I love doing this because even though it's a mastermind where you're getting all these other people's ideas, I always had ideas that I would throw out after other people did. And they started appreciating that. And I kept asking, why you keep coming back? And it was because I'm learning so much, and you input so much, and everybody else does. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to help people in their business. And it gives me probably as much enjoyment as it does the people I work with when they go from, should I say, a fledgling small company, and then after a little while just kind of start seeing it and what it's really like to look at a business from a true business standpoint, and they start growing themselves and the business starts growing, and then boom, 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 here they go. And that's great satisfaction for me, and of course it's wonderful for them too.
So since you started the coaching part of it, what has been, and you don't have to give us a name or anything, but like a success story, like as you said, like a fledgling company, and how you took them to grow into a bigger company?
Well, there's a few that come to mind right off the bat, but the great majority of my clients, although not all of them, the great majority are in the trades. So the trades are typically someone goes to become the air conditioning person, the plumber, the electrician, the this or that, because they already knew the trade and they were very good at what they did. But they usually do not know anything about business whatsoever. They're ready to start their own business because they're tired of their boss. They think they can make more money. They don't like the way they're treated, and hey, I'm going. Surprisingly enough, what I've always found is the majority of those do pretty well for about a year to 2 years because they've got their own sphere of influence. And so they let the word out. People know them. Oh, I'm working for myself. They're all fantastic. You're probably less expensive than everybody else. You can do this right away. I don't have to get on your waiting list. All these other reasons. So they do pretty well. Then the year or 2 years down the road comes in, and all of a sudden it's, oh, now what do I do? I don't have any more clients. I haven't been able to leverage that business. Or there's other things like my books are a mess. I don't have any books. IRS is knocking on the door. I can't hire some people. I don't know how to train people. It runs the gamut. So that's the basic, but a lot of them are very new to business. They don't know how to structure things. They don't know how to look at their role in the business besides that technician, so to speak, in the trade. Well, I'm out here also, so we're working together. So how do you become the real manager? How do you manage the business? I've got a couple of businesses in particular where they were about ready to close the doors. And they told me this. We're ready to close the doors unless something changes. They were, $250,000, $300,000. Fast forward 3-4 years later with some of them. Well, one of them, fast forward a year and a half, he's at over $2 million now and doing very well. And then several others that are 2 to 3 million, doing well, being able to sleep at night, not taking work home at night, and has just totally changed their perspective completely. They're ready to let these businesses go for various different reasons, but a lot of it is the frustration. A lot of it is I'm not getting any sleep for various reasons. So it's it's really a blast to see that happens, and they just love it. And they're doing well.
That's
So hopefully
interesting.
that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've got a company, Kodiak Mountain Stone, and we're a supplier of stone veneer and brick and whatnot. And I see that a lot, that someone in the masonry industry or whatever trade, and in their mind as an employee, they just keep looking and saying, oh, my boss is making so much money and I can do all this. I can do what he's doing.
Yep.
And then they go out on their own and realize there's a lot more to it than just doing the job. And yeah, some of them I would say shouldn't do it at all. And some of them, maybe if they had someone like you stepping in to begin with, they'd avoid a lot of the pitfalls that they run into pretty quick. But yeah, that's very interesting.
Right. Yeah, but usually they don't bring anybody in right away.
Right.
So I will, I always offer complimentary consultation to anybody, and sometimes it's startups, but they usually won't even take, oh, I know what I'm doing. Well, they think they know what they're doing in business, but really they just know what they're doing regarding that trade. And they won't ask for help until there's a real pain point someplace. And it's like, now I've got to. I'd love to start working with these people ahead of time because now they're in some kind of trouble. And, but, later's better than never, I guess.
That's right.
Now, once you come into to work with somebody, like you said, you have them go from a couple $100,000 up to a couple million. Are you just with them every step of the way, or do you get in there, get everything kind of fixed, and then they take off, or how long do people usually work with you?
Well,
depends.
Yeah, it runs the gamut. The ones that have been successful, I've worked with for several years, but I do it based on it's always what they need. It's not what I need. So typically, to begin with, I call it the fast track. So we're meeting usually once a week, and we're going over things. We're trying to get things. It takes a little while for me to understand their whole business, of course, but we're getting things at some type of a normal level, correcting the big problems, and from there we'll go to meeting every other week, and that's kind of a typical normal level. Now, when a company is starting to do well, and the manager or the owner starts kind of really seeing it and taking total control over things, then we move into what I call the accountability stage. So then we're meeting once a month. And, every time we meet, I always give them some tasks. This is what kind of we agreed on that you're going to do. And a lot of times it's my suggestions, this is what I'll do. And they start working that way. But when we're in the accountability mode, it's like, I'm always documenting all this. And then, okay, where do we stand here? Where do we stand? What did you get done? What are your hurdles? What kind of problems? What else has come up? And it's always what else has also come up besides this. And so we're talking about situations, and they've got more situations than they even realize that they've got. So it's always dealing with customers, with employees, with everything you can possibly think of. And, so the smart ones, as far as I'm concerned, we continually work and meet once a week or once a month. The others, I've had some that, we'll work a couple months and, oh, okay, we're fine. We'll talk about it, as to why they feel that way. And then they all say, well, we'll get back with you. And I keep in touch, but sometimes that doesn't happen. But hey, it's their choice, It can only take someone down the garden path. And if they don't want to continue, or it's that, take the horse to water, but you can't make it.
Right.
And I have had a number of them. I've had one company, I still have one company, where they have stopped 3 times. And then 4 to 6 months later, I'm getting a phone call again. Hey, we need to get back together.
The house is on fire again.
Yeah, so it's like, sometimes a lot of times it's that. Other times it's, a different idea, different direction. What do you think about this? And there's been all types. But that's kind of how we work together.
Okay.
So the fact that you work a lot with the trades, is there a common thing that you often run into when you first start working with someone, the kind of a regular problem that they all face?
Treating the business like a real business is probably the number one thing. They start a business, they commingle the books, the accounts. They don't look at the business as a real business, and I usually explain it from the standpoint. This usually gets them to see it differently. That a business is a legal entity. So usually it's an LLC, incorporated, whatever type of entity they take. So it's a legal entity. And I'll explain to them from the standpoint that in reality, from a legal standpoint, you don't own that company. You work for that company is what you do. And being the caretaker of that company, you really have a fiduciary responsibility to do for that company what is in the best interest of that company. Now, it's all going to flow down and flow through to yourself, but you have to separate it. You have to treat it as such. So it is, you kind of get this different mindset where when you have an issue, what is the best thing to do for the company? So it eliminates a lot of these knee-jerk reactions where, okay, I'm going to take some money out. I'm just going to take money out of here, and I'm not going to put it where it's supposed to be. I'm going to use it myself. I'm not going to account for it. I'm upset with a customer, and I'm just going to tell them where to go. And okay, and I've talked a number of clients off the edge where they at least have stopped to think and have given me a call and say, I need to talk with you about this. So we work it through, and it's always, so what are the ramifications of you doing this? Is it going to cost you? Where'd you get the client from to begin with? Things like that. Is it's going to affect that relationship and this relationship and that relationship? So it's we go many different directions, and it's a blast. I really
have you ever dealt with any? I've dealt with some where it's been similar to what you're saying. They've been working for someone and just thought, hey, this is something I can do. And they go out and start their business, and then it's a struggle from day one. And it really comes down to the fact that, they're not the right person to be running a business. Ownership is how it's structured. All right. But, to operate this as a business, you need to bring in someone else to run it for you. Have you ever had any situations like that?
Yep, I have. And one of my real success stories was someone that I told after about 4 or 5 meetings and realizing we weren't getting anywhere. I actually came in and we sat down at this meeting, and I said to him, I really thought about all this and what you were doing. And I said, I've come to realize what we need to do. He leans in over his desk and he says, so what do we need to do? I said, well, what we need to do is fire you. I swear. It was kind of like a make or break moment for me. And it's like, if we're not moving forward, then why should we be working together? And I really don't want to. I mean, that's about right before the point, if we didn't do something there, that I would fire him because, it just isn't working. But that's exactly what I did. Well, what do I have to lose, Well, it woke him up. And he's one of those that are going to be doing 2.5 to 3 this year. Awesome. And he's brought in a key employee, and he's overseeing things working much less than he ever did before and making more money. God, isn't that what we all want?
That's right.
Yeah, I guess it's similar on the way is feeling comfortable that you can afford to pay somebody to come into that position. I mean, obviously sometimes you can't afford not to, but unless you've got some backing or something, where does somebody find, I guess, the capital to bring in somebody to run it for them so they can just do their job?
Well, that's part of what the planning, evaluation and planning comes in. So, which I'm a big planner and a big evaluator and process and procedures and things like that. So I believe strongly in all of those things. So it's sitting down and looking, where do you want to take the business? I mean, that's huge. Where do you want to take at least 5 years or maybe 10 years down the road? And I literally, looking at their books and whatever, will recast their books from the standpoint of where they are now and what is it going to take to scale this up to what you want in, say, 10 years. And we'll kind of agree. We'll go over that. And we'll agree on all that. And from there, then we'll move it back to 5 years. And we'll move it back, which isn't necessarily just half of the 10, and then we'll move it back to 3, 2, and 1. And it becomes so much clearer of what you need to do. At what point do you need to bring in this other person? If you're calling it a lead, if you're calling it a supervisor, if you're calling it a key employee, and they like the trade. So in order to do this kind of business, then you need so many more vehicles. You need so many more vehicles. You need this, and this. And then, the people that you bring in, even if it is a supervisor, they essentially have to pay for themselves. I mean, and then you set up that job description and those key points that someone has to hit. And the evaluations on a regular basis, it just goes on and on. If you don't do that, you lose these people. The job isn't defined properly to begin with. And then if you don't review them on a very regular basis, they lose it. So there's a lot that goes into that. When you start doing that, it's amazing. I remember when we went into business to begin with, the first thing we had said, my partner and I, is we were not going to treat our business like a big business. And we're not going to have all this paperwork. And we aren't going to do this and we aren't going to do that. Well, there's a real advantage to treating it. I don't call it a big business, but I call it a real business. And the real business, the big businesses, they've got a lot right as to what they're doing and their evaluations and their trigger points and milestones and things like that. If you don't take some of that stuff and implement it, you're still going to be a real small little business. And I try to help them realize at least some of the minimum things that they need to do.
I want to just shift a little bit. Knowing your background, you've got years and years of entrepreneurship behind you. And then with so many entrepreneurs you've worked with, where are your thoughts with the importance of personal development and self-education when it comes to entrepreneurship and running your own business?
I think it's extremely important. The more they can do themselves, the more they realize there's different perspectives and different ways of doing things. They're in their own minds so much that they kind of need to get out of it. And that's where a lot of times, a lot of them are very busy and they don't do that. And I kind of bring a lot of that to them. So every time I tell them that, okay, well, let's look at it this way and why, I'm usually telling a story as to why. So let me tell you what happened here. And that's kind of educating them while they're going along to have a real meaning why we should consider this and why we should consider that. But yeah, if they can sit down, a lot of them aren't readers, and a lot of them aren't going to pay whatever kind of money, it costs, sometimes very expensive, to get some of these books and programs and things like that. The big thing with the programs is most people don't follow through on those things anyways, is from what I have found. So the regular meetings and the accountability, I think, is very, very important, no matter how they do it, but it's hard to keep yourself accountable. Very hard.
Right. And, I've had similar outcomes with some of my clients where, I would love to say, hey, this is a book that you need to go read because you're going to learn so much from it. But they are someone that I know isn't a reader and isn't going to go through with it. And so one thing that I've found that I do a lot more often with someone like that is, instead of giving them a book to say, hey, go read this book, I'll get something like an article or even a TED talk or something shorter that they can consume in a short amount of time and take on that way. But yeah, I mean, I wish every client I could say, all right, go read Think and Go Rich, go read How to Win Friends and Influence People, go read, just do that. And it has been beneficial with things like Audible out there now and stuff, where they can listen to them rather than reading them, because there's a lot that don't want to actually do the reading. Is there a book that has been very influential in your life?
Probably the one that's been the most influential has been the E-Myth.
What?
E-Myth.
Oh, E-Myth.
There's several different ones. When I was in business, and this business I say to develop, had it for 18 years. And at a certain point, it was my partner who said, God, we need to look at this. I heard about this. That was the very first E-Myth book. Now, there's been several since, but that was the very first one. And it was like, wow, are you kidding me? And you can just see yourself after being in business for so many years and, what you needed to do. Now, both of us it was a computer-related business. So neither one of us were the computer tech. So we went into it more from the business standpoint. We're going to own and operate the business, oversee the business. We're going to bring in the techs. So we weren't the tech starting the business. But the E-Myth, I think, has just been fantastic. Of course, Think and Grow Rich is certainly, a great book. But the E-Myth is, he explains things a lot differently than others do. And I know he's very highly regarded.
Just listening to who your niche market is with the trades and stuff, that's actually a book that the one concept out of that book that kept coming to mind as you were talking about them was the working in your business versus working on your business. And that's, I think, something that you probably address quite often with your clients.
Oh yeah. And a lot of people know that term, but it's just interesting that saying it is one thing, but realizing what it really is something totally different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and that's where I say reading a book or going to a program or buying these things, people just don't tend to follow through. And so one thing I could suggest, if you want someone to read something, of course, an article is certainly great, but the other thing is, okay, get this book and I want you to read this chapter, just this chapter. Go past the intro and stuff like that, which everybody hates. I want you to go to this chapter, and when we meet next time, we're going to talk about it. So that's the accountability aspect.
That would be a great idea. I remember, I don't know which one I have, but I bought the E-Myth book probably 10 years ago, and I'll pick it up and I'll start to read it, and I don't know, I never get very far in it, and then it gets pushed aside, and then I'll pull it out, and it'll be like a couple of years later, and go, I've never finished the book.
Right. Sure, but it's accountability. So if you had someone else that said, listen, you're going to read it, I'm going to read it too, and we're going to talk about it next week, boy, you'd get that done, wouldn't you?
Sure.
Everybody does. I've had clients that stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning the day before our meeting, say, here, I got this done. I go, okay.
It's like cramming for a college exam.
Yeah, and it's like, so how late does this take you? Well, it was up till 2. But I said, yeah, but you got it done, didn't you? Otherwise you wouldn't have gotten it done. Well, that's probably true. Yeah. But so it's all interesting.
Yeah. And like you're saying, like since a lot of the people are in the trades, they're probably driving between appointments and what have you. So that's where the new Audible books would come in, because they could just have it playing while they're driving between customers.
Could. A lot of them are so busy, of course, what we've seen before this pandemic situation, these trades were crazy busy.
Yeah.
So they're always thinking about, okay, I got to go to the next job, I got to get there, and but they could. It's better than nothing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, excellent. That's some great stuff. I really appreciate that. One of the things that we want to make sure to do is let our listeners know how they can contact you, where they can find you. Do you want to share any of that with us so that any of our listeners that want to reach out can do that?
Sure. Well, the name of the business, which I guess I didn't say, is the Business Guidance Group. So it's all about, I guide people, don't have the hammer and hold it over their head. So it's the Business Guidance Group, and I'm known as a business growth coach. My website is businessguidancegroup.com, and my email is bud at, and I kind of abbreviate it, where it's yourbgg.com. So it's yourbusinessguidancegroup.com. And give me a call. My telephone number is 602-721-6814. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I say, it's actually my nickname is Bud Levey. But so when it comes up and it says Neil, that's my real name is Neil. Always gone by Bud, so I just think about that. So if you do look me up, don't be surprised if you see Neil there, and it's Levey, which is very different than most others.
Great. And I'll make sure that all these links and stuff are in the show notes too, so people can find them there.
Right.
But hey, Bud, thank you very much for being on with us and sharing your story and all this information. And I know that our listeners will get a lot out of it. So thank you and really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it also.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. Take care. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Hope you got a lot out of that episode and you enjoyed it. The next few slides are going to show you how to stay in touch with myself, with Heidi, and our guests. So stay tuned for that. But just to give you a little bit more information about myself and Heidi, we're both entrepreneurs. I'm a business development coach, love working with entrepreneurs. Please visit my website at jeffhaggie.com, jeffheggie.com, and jeffhaggiecoaching.com. You'll be able to find out what we offer there, from the one-on-one coaching to the group coaching and the Inner Circle Mastermind. It's an incredible group of entrepreneurs, big thinkers. Love to have you join us there. So take a look and let me know if I can do anything for you. Now, Heidi, she's a business financial strategist. She works with business owners to create tax-free cash flow, to help save the money on taxes and merchant fees. And you can stay in touch with her at handerson@ecibfs.com, or you can contact her at 855-782-2737. Look forward to hearing from you and look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Thanks.